From indie to AAA, China is set to clone the entire gaming industry. Everyone clones and copies a bit, but while the West does it quietly, China does it strategically to dominate the global gaming world. But cloning your way to power comes at a cost. I'll uncover their three-part cloning strategy, why they clone instead of create, and their unspoken tactic that might be their real key to global dominance.
All right, let's see it. She's the one that did the video on that porn game thing.
Remember the buzz around Asmongold for ripping off Pokemon?
Yeah, I played it yesterday.
Well, now Tencent, China's gaming giant, is openly cloning it to incubate their next big hit. And Asmongold's maker calls this amazing times. So while the West cries rip-off, in China, it's just another day at the office, and I'll show you how they do it. But first, when I think of China, I think of... Sorry, I just couldn't do a video about China and not mention my boy Jackie Chan, who, by the way, was the face of the Learning Machine, the top Nintendo clone back when importing consoles was way too expensive. And Jackie came with a keyboard to not only play, but learn through games like Letters Invaders. Now, I'm bringing this up because the company behind...
Oh, so it's just basically they just took an existing game and changed it.
The Learning Machine recently went bankrupt, thanks to China's chaotic laws. And to understand their game making, let's first understand their lawmaking, which in China can change overnight. You see, games must be government approved to make sure they're cultural fit. From detailed game descriptions to source codes, the government checks everything, since games are dubbed opium of the mind. But when a
yeah, kind of true.
regulatory shift kicked in, the government froze all game approvals for an entire year. Big games were blocked from making sales, causing huge financial losses and many, many new rules. Real ID registration, facial scans, and limited gaming hours for kids.
Oh my God, what does it say here? Let me read it real quick. According to your account information, you have been identified as a minor. According to the anti-addiction system rules, you cannot record games from... God damn.
Gaming hours for kids.
It says, get the fuck off the computer, kid. I always go to bed at 9 a.m. It's the thing I've ever played until midnight.
The first freeze ended, but a second freeze dropped the number of approvals even more. Today, game approvals continue, albeit very slowly. And to top it off, China had a 15-year-long ban on gaming consoles to crack down on gaming. But when the economy struggled, they lifted the ban to cash in on the gaming industry. Suddenly, China was ready for the Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox, which meant the end for many local clone makers. And so, Keyboard Jackie disappeared, and with it, the childhood memories of many Chinese. This nutshell version shows China's unpredictable lawmaking. But there's way more than just...
And like, I think a good example of this is, remember recently whenever there was like that leak or something about how they were thinking about regulating microtransactions and not letting kids spend money on video games? And like the moment that they said minors can't gamble in video games, tons of companies lost billions of dollars. They're like, wait, what? Well, where are we going to get our money?
Red tape. So to grasp their cloning strategy,
they roll it back.
To rewind a bit further.
It's not happening.
And I'll make it quick. So let's start here with Mao's death. That's when China flipped from ideology to economy, sparking the chaotic period of gaming, unregulated, free-for-all, and flooded with unlicensed copies. The first Chinese PC game was pretty much a Monopoly knockoff. A year later, China's first RPG entered the scene. In the formation period, regulations popped up, but didn't keep players from cloning. Shanda's The World of Legend
it's Diablo.
Cloned a Korean game, and Tencent's first game...
Yeah, look, what the fuck? That's crazy.
World of Legend cloned a Korean game, and Tencent's first game portal looked strikingly similar to another. But why did China, once famous for its world-changing innovations, become infamous for its imitations?
Wait, what does that say?
World-changing innovations become
That's something special. That's great.
Infamous for its imitations. Well, it boils down to their view of knowledge. You see, knowledge is seen as public good and trumps personal ideas. As a Chinese official once wrote, Chinese learn for substance, Westerners for application. In other words, use foreign knowledge to boost national power, whether it's military equipment or architecture. That's why a Chinese developer replicated Zaha Hadid's design before her project was even complete. When called out, he claimed, "I never meant to copy, just to surpass." And
it's different. Yeah, holy fuck, man. Well, look at Genshin Impact, right? Think about how much stuff they copied.
here, dear viewers, lies the stark contrast. As a Chinese journalist notes, Americans have hope while we have targets. But it's not just about targets. In China, it's about reaching them fast. Many of you nailed it in my community post. China clones for fast market capture. It's more complex than this, but whether it's quickly capturing a market, cultural influence, or lax legalities, speed is key.
Well, it's easy to do. That's the reason why you do it. I mean, is it harder to make your own game or just to fucking take somebody else's game and change the name of it? Like, I feel like it's a lot easier to do that. So big surprise they're going to do that. I didn't copy. My design's better than yours. Yeah, there it is.
And that's why during the development period, China's gaming industry exploded. Online gaming, loot boxes, and microtransactions became the new gold rush, with giants launching games even on entirely homegrown 3D engines. In the expansion period, China became the largest gaming population in the world, and today, in the maturing period, the largest gaming market in the world.
They're fucking massive, bro. Like, China, the amount of people, like, there is a reason why all of these companies have no problem. It's like, you wanna have something censored for China? Oh, absolutely. No issue. Not a big deal. That's why it happens every single time, guys.
In the world. With Chinese gaming giants topping the revenue charts, it rightfully earned the title Games Industry Capital of the World. Now, before I show their cloning strategy, I want to get things straight. Who does not clone? East or West, we all do it. Games have always been copied. When Doom set the template for FPS, most FPS games were dubbed Doom clones. Same with Diablo clones. Candy Crush ripped off Bejeweled, which ripped off Diamond Mine. Paladin mirrored Overwatch, Saints Row GTA, and PUBG.
Oh, but this is always true, by the way. People always steal ideas.
Walked so Fortnite could run. I mean, that's how genres are born. However, there's a thin line between enhancing a concept and outright theft. America's most notorious clone company is probably Zynga. A while back, EA sued them over the Ville for ripping off The Sims Social. As soon as EA released Restaurant City, Zynga released Cafe World with striking resemblance. The fun part, Farmville, the game that put Zynga on the map, that too is just a rehash of Chinese game Happy Farm.
So the game that made them probably billions of dollars was just a reskin? That's crazy. That really puts into perspective like how bad some of these other gaming studios are fucking up to be getting, you know, circles run around them by these guys.
Which itself is a rehash of Japan's Harvest
ABC,
Moon.
that's right,
check
always
out
be
Deviator
cheating.
From a Chinese studio.
All night.
From UI to mechanics, Deviator doesn't seem to deviate too far from its inspiration. And then there's piano tiles. No, I have not sped up the video, but this Chinese hit game spawned so many knockoffs, this lady didn't need long to prove her point.
Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be tier listing a bunch of piano tiles ripoffs. Alright, so I went to the App Store and searched up piano tiles and downloaded as many as I could find.
Oh my god.
And then I realized that the list would pretty much never end. There's way too many, and I think this one page, 30 of them is enough.
You see, we all do it to some
Holy
extent.
shit.
But while the West does it subtly, China does it aggressively for 3 reasons. Number 1, pressure. In a blog titled, How I Put Together a Game Map That You'll Despise, a Chinese designer shows how to clone a game map quickly, saying, plagiarizing is an art in itself. If you think I shouldn't be a designer, then sorry, but I'll continue to be one to make a living.
And that's the bottom line, right? Yep. You can think I'm a piece of shit, but I got the money, so who's mad? That's it. AB always be cheating, that's right.
Yes, in China, studios push for super fast turnarounds, no time for innovating. And meanwhile, Western studios, they take their sweet, sweet time.
They
but
sure
doesn't China have copyright laws? Well, which brings us to the second reason, lacks copyright laws. Many think China lacks them, but they have.
Oh, and this, by the way, is what's going to happen with AI. The more that the West handicaps itself with AI regulations, the more the Chinese markets and the other overseas markets will outcompete us and sell their products at a higher ratio. This is what's going to happen with AI.
Them very similar to the US. They just aren't enforced as strictly. Look at this. Game mechanics and ideas, not protected in either country. Art and graphics, protected in both, barely enforced in China. Story and text, enforced in the US, lose in China. Same with sound and music. So why work on new ideas if anyone can just copy them faster than you can say copyright infringement? Blizzard's Hearthstone, for example, was cloned within a few months of its...
Man, that looks pretty fucking similar. Holy shit, that's the same exact thing. Oh my god.
Release. Sleeping Dragon doesn't just look similar, it looks and sounds identical. Blizzard sued them and walked away with $2 million. Or take Honor of Kings.
2 million? Man, they really got what they deserved. That
China's
sucks.
top mobile game. Its maker Tencent faces numerous lawsuits, especially with this one, which cloned almost everything from
Mobile
game design
Legends.
to characters.
I
and
wonder
even
what game
marketing
that's going to be.
tactics. Marketing tactics? Can they even be protected? I don't know.
Well, that's what they do, right? Is they basically market the game as if it's the original game. They're like, yeah, this is the game, but it's the same game, but play our version of the same thing. This is nuts.
But check this out. NetEase, Blizzard's Chinese partner, sued for an Overwatch clone and walked away with $500,000. But only to be sued by PUBG Corp, as NetEase created 2 mobile games very similar to PUBG on PC.
PUBG,
Yeah, it's basically the same.
Knives Out. PUBG, Rules of Survival. PUBG, Cyber Hunter.
So if everyone clones and sues everyone, why can't Western studios do the same?
It's a loss.
Forget about it. Just forget about it. Which leads to the third reason, legal inaction. It's nearly impossible for foreign studios to enforce their rights in China. The legal system...
See, this is what I've been saying for a long time. Is like everybody thinks like, oh, well, we can just, you know, have this regulation or this rule and then the internet won't have this problem anymore. No, because there's other places in the world that just are not accountable to what American laws are. Like, it's not like the entire world revolves around America's regulations. And that's what's going to happen with AI, is that AI is going to keep growing in the East and people will choose AI. They will choose the AI that is better. I don't think that the average person cares about the ethics of AI. They don't give a shit about, oh, that's stealing somebody's likeness. Like, why would anybody who's not a celebrity care about this? Nobody gives a shit. So as soon as people can get this and it provides a value to them, then they're going to be immediately buying it. Like forcing the TikTok sale, they'll give us audience for selling. Yeah, exactly, right? And identity theft, though? Yeah, but it's probably not going to happen to you. Whereas like celebrities and people like that in entertainment, like people in the entertainment industry have basically zero sympathy from the public. Nobody gives a shit about them. Nobody cares what they think. Nobody cares how they feel because people see being in entertainment as a privilege. So if you have bad things happen to you while you're having that privilege, then that's not a problem.
Often favors local firms anyways, and even if you win, it might not even be worth the cost. When Tekken's 3 training mode was patented worldwide, including China, it didn't take long for a Chinese fighting game to ignore the patent and feature a strikingly similar mode.
Well, hey, if it's against the rules, that's one thing. But if I can still do it, then who gives a shit?
Enforcements in China are hit or miss, but their 3-part cloning strategy isn't. Because if they're good at something, it's at monitoring. In the monitoring stage, it's all about observing global gaming trends and adapting them to China's strict regulations. You see, many foreign games in China are banned because they don't pass the cultural test. Blood, nudity, extreme violence, all a no-go. Sleeping Dogs, for instance, didn't pass the test because it took place in Hong Kong. Shenmue 3 also didn't because it showed real-life Chinese locations. Hoppu Games showed a red effect around the icons, which is the color of blood. And Pokemon Go didn't pass because Google Maps is banned. But Let's Hunt Monsters filled the gap quite nicely. Now,
man, so they just added another one. That's nuts. People just fucking adapt. What a soft mindset? Well, I mean, it's a totalitarian regime where if you speak out against the government, you could go to jail or they could ruin your life. Like, I don't think people respect, like, everybody thinks about, like, oh, China, it's like this or whatever. People don't respect how lucky we are to live in a Western first world country. Like, I'm sure China's a nice place in a lot of cases, but there are these issues with that country.
Here's where it gets interesting. How do you identify breakout genres? Well, according to their strategy, genres tend to emerge every 6 years. From FPS to MMORPGs to MOBA and Battle Royale. And by tracking Steam tags, they can monitor genres with global breakout potential.
So wait, so we haven't evolved? So games just haven't evolved now? That's it? Evolving is done?
To ensure they are at the forefront. Which
2023 sus, yeah, it's it's done.
Cloning. Once they spot a breakout genre, they quickly clone and test them. In case of a small hit, they double down through strategic partnerships. When MOBA and Battle Royale emerged, notice how Tencent acquired Riot Games and secured PUBG mobile rights. They then rolled out Honor of Kings, which is basically League of Legends, and tailored it for Chinese players.
I'm going to be honest, I thought this one was League. I did. I have no idea. I don't know anything about League. I've never played League before. So yeah, I was like, oh, this must be League, and this is the Chinese one. No.
On mobile. And when NetEase released mega hit game Eggy Party, a Fall Guys clone,
like Fall Guys.
Tencent redirected hundreds of devs from working on Assassin's Creed Jade to their own party game, Dreamstar. No wonder Assassin's Creed Jade is delayed to 2025, because the party game genre has priority. But cloning isn't just about mimicking game mechanics. You gotta clone the smart way to gel with the Chinese culture. And that's why a direct clone of PUBG was not successful. Tencent had to rebrand it as Game for Peace, a patriotic, non-violent version to comply with Chinese regulations. Players wave goodbye instead of dying, and they emit light instead of blood. As the designer lady said, cloning is an art in itself. Which brings us to the next stage, scaling. Once a cloned game becomes a small hit, the real magic happens, scaling. Put it on mobile, PC, and make it free to play. But not just that, you gotta boost the marketing too. Let's go back to Honor of Kings. Once cloned and...
How many of you guys have gotten advertisements for Chinese mobile games that are like World of Warcraft and it's just a scuffed version of it? I've gotten a lot of those. Yeah. So it's funny because like we've all experienced this. And like, look at Terraceland. That's the new one that's happening right now.
Culturally adapted, it became the #1 game. And so Tencent threw everything at it. Massive ad campaigns, celebrity endorsements, collaborations with beauty brands to bring in female gamers. Or take Genshin Impact. They didn't just
See, that's the big one. Bro, like Genshin? Holy fuck.
Collaborate, they Genshified entire KFCs to reel in mostly male gamers.
All dudes. I'm pretty sure this is like 100% all dudes.
And once it's on every platform...
It was, by the way. It was this is the thing. Like, who do you think goes to these places? Like, girls are going to this? No, it's guys.
And the marketing is rolling, they try to push it globally. But what's working in China doesn't necessarily work abroad. Take Arena of Valor, for instance. It's the Western version of Honor of Kings and flopped internationally for 2 reasons. First, it launched just as the Battle Royale craze took off with Fortnite. Second, it's a game lost in translation. Honor of Kings hooks players with its rich Chinese cultural context, covering historic heroes to iconic poets. But when Arena of Valor tried swapping in Norse, Greek, and Roman figures, it just didn't click the same way. There just is no shared cultural literacy. And honestly, I'm not sure if throwing Batman or the Joker into the mix.
And also another factor is that I think the Chinese seem to be way more patriotic than Americans are, right? And there's like American culture really depends on who you ask. And like it's not as like monolithic.
is going to change that. In any case, the strategy of monitoring, cloning, and scaling is their way to find their winner-winner chicken dinner. But there's something way deeper at play here. Just when you think cloning is their only ace, they've got another card up their sleeve. Buying out foreign firms. Sure, that's not something...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, look at Tencent, right? Tencent bought out Riot. Tencent also bought out Grinding Gear Games for PoE. They own the majority of Grinding Gear Games now. Yeah. If you can't beat them, buy them.
Specific to China, but there's a catch here. Foreign game studios have to work with Chinese firms to sell their games in China, which means they have to share their profits. And not many foreign companies want to do that, which means less competition and more money for China. And with more money, they can easily buy more foreign studios for some very hefty sums. And with this advantage of being a closed market, the Communist Party is aggressively buying out Western industries.
And it's also, I bet the government kind of enables this because it's beneficial for them.
Maybe while Hollywood spread its American values through movies, perhaps it's now China's turn to do the very same, but through games. In a communist state like China, this means everything, including games, is controlled by the state. So while the West tries to ban TikTok, it should perhaps also look behind the scenes of Western game studios that...
Yeah. Yeah. Remember whenever I said this shit? Fucking finally, people are waking up. Thank God. Holy shit. We know, yep. Did you watch this stream? I hope so.
That also provide access to millions of personal data points. And so long gone are the days when you could just pop a cartridge into a keyboard jackie and stay somewhat untraceable. However, this all isn't without its challenges. In China, the gaming community is growing tired of it all, especially of the game of clones. When The Legend of Neverland came out, a blatant clone of Genshin Impact, gamers were not impressed, and criticism was fierce. And when
well, this even happened with Tower of Fantasy. When Tower of Fantasy got released, like a lot of Chinese players were like, you're stealing our fucking game. Like, this is our game. This is Genshin fucking Impact. And you're stealing it? Yeah, they were furious. Genshin's a Chinese game, though? Yeah, and it was also stolen from Breath of the Wild, but that's different. I mean, in one case, they were stealing from the Japanese, and in this case, they're stealing from the Chinese. That's different, right? That's totally different.
Plague Inc. was taken down the App Store because you know why. A Russian clone appeared, which also faced huge backlash from Chinese gamers who mistook it as yet another copycat move. And so the winner-winner chicken strategy might not be cutting it much longer, which is where this game enters the scene. Dubbed China's first AAA game, Black Myth Wukong is their first dab at creating something truly new. But while this game might be setting a new trend in China, it's really just a very lone wolf for now. Ironically, it's inspired by the Chinese tale Journey to the West, a tale that couldn't be any closer to China's broader intentions. And maybe that's the real lesson here. In the fast-paced world,
I think that's what's going on. People, I mean, the thing is, like, I would play a game from China. I don't give a fuck. Like, if the game's good, I'm going to play it. If the game's bad, I ain't going to play it. Like, you think I give a fuck if I'm going to play the game? Oh, it's from China. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's from China. Why? Like, what the fuck? Like, you really think that these other people have your best interest in mind? Absolutely fucking not. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I don't believe that China is any sort of, like, unique evil in a way that other countries aren't. I think that it's just China is more overt with it. And people, like, there's a lot of conversation around it because of how big China is. But I think there's a lot of countries that try to do the same thing. Can you name five games from China that you really like? I mean, let me think. I mean, can I say Valorant? Because Valorant is owned by Riot, which is owned by Tencent. But let's assume it's not. Yeah, Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves. I played Tower of Fantasy. That's about it. I can't do 5, yeah. So, like, basically all the bullshit games.
World of gaming, cloning and owning games might bring quick success. But the real test will be whether China can create them from scratch. Until then, happy cloning.
I think that 100% China will be able to do it. I think it's silly to think that they're never going to be able to figure this out. Of course they will. Because they're getting better at it every single year. It's a great video. Yeah, this is an amazing video. Give it a like. It only has 27,000 views. This is so good. It's not about what your country can do for you. It's about what your country can steal from other countries. There it is. That's right. Even Monkey King is based on Son Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Well, I think it's the other way around. Disagree. The difference in politics and economy is a lot more related to China. If you support a Chinese company, you support the Chinese political system. But supporting EA does not only benefit the U.S. I mean, yeah, but like, I just like, to me, I don't really care about that. Do I really care about that? I don't think so. Yeah, that's not really too big of a deal. You should. Well, what am I going to do though, right? Am I going to be like thinking about like, oh my God, who makes this video game? Am I playing the most ethical video game? Who's doing this? Like, that's crazy, man. Like, no, absolutely not. It's too much hassle. You absolutely should. But, like, I'm not going to because it's annoying and I just want to play a game. Like, that's really the truth. I don't care. Like, you can talk about how important it is or anything else. But, like, I just don't care. I don't. It's not that important to me. I keep the geopolitics out of the games. Yeah, if it's a good game, I'm going to play it. I think that China will eventually make better games. And I think that to the extent that American companies handicap themselves by not fully utilizing AI, we could see a genuine Chinese takeover of the gaming industry that is done by American companies because they are too focused on protecting the intellectual property and like these problems with AI. That's the real thing. That's what I think is going to happen. More than anything. Eventually, they're already making better games. Well, I think it's going to become even more common, right? This is all good for competition. Yes, and as soon as this happens, you're going to see all these companies, because the companies will start losing money. These companies will immediately throw away every ethic and every value and say, we just want to do AI with no restrictions. And that's the reason why. AI is way too overhyped. Well, it's not really about AI. It's about what can AI do. For example, like having AI generate dialogue, so you don't need voice actors. Having AI generate open spaces and then have a person fine-tune them. Like, it makes a lot of things easier. AI is crypto of 2023 to 2024? No, it's not. That is a, like, very, very, like, average, like, I think I'm smart take, right? That's not it. It can barely do anything. Well, if it can think about the logic here. If it can barely do anything, then why is everybody worried about it? What's that? Like, just think about it just for like 2 or 3 seconds. Crypto doesn't produce anything? You know, it doesn't. Somebody uses AI every day. It's insanity how much I'm doing with it. Yeah, exactly. And so this is what's going to keep happening more and more. And if Western companies don't adapt and use AI to their advantage, Eastern companies will, and they will beat them in the market, because no American public person, or like the American public, wants entertainment. They don't care how they get it. So if there is a better game in China, people will play the better game. That's it. It's the same as Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact was a blatant ripoff of Breath of the Wild in so many ways, but nobody really cared. And that's it. People only care about the experience and what they get for themselves. Just the world, nothing else? Yeah, exactly. AI can't produce quality products right now. That is true, but at the same time, it's not. I think it really depends. Yeah, it can produce quality code. If it can produce enough content for people to, what do you call it? If it can produce enough content for people to use it and have it reduce jobs, then they can make games for cheaper. That's the reason. Did you watch Wuthering Waves 1.1 trailer? I'll watch it in a couple of minutes. Give me a minute. Be right back.